What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here in our podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? Another full pod once again on the music front. Playboi Carti's first album in over 4 years. A lot of hype with that one. Also, a new album from Sserafim. On the TV side of things, the return of the Righteous Gemstones for its fourth and final season on HBO. And then my favorite topic, a ton of new movies to discuss. Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag, A24's Opus, Novocaine, the action comedy film starring Jack Quaid, and Netflix's The Electric State, starring Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. Make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of The Righteous Gemstones Season 4 on HBO, the fourth and final season of the universally acclaimed, celebrated comedy series at HBO from Danny McBride, David Gordon Green, and Jody Hill. Man, it's so great for this series to be back just because Gemstones has been such a consistent presence as far as HBO comedies go. It's remained fresh, interesting, and above all else, consistently hilarious throughout its entire run. This has not run out of steam as a concept, as a group of characters. Thus, getting to go on one last ride with the Gemstone family is just a pure delight. I continue to be impressed with the creativity of this series, the audaciousness of the new concepts, the new set pieces that they bring into this world of this grifting megachurch wealthy family. It's both incredibly witty and also, again, so darn funny. Danny McBride, Adam Devine, Edie Patterson, the scene-stealing Walton Goggins, Tony Cavallero as Keith, Tim Balls as BJ. Just a loaded cast, the comedic timing, richness of the characters at this point. Everything is really humming on this show. And because all that works so well, those character dynamics, the societal comment, the just quality of the joke delivery, the plot just takes care of itself on this show. Yes, I'm looking forward to BJ and Judy working on their marriage more in season 4. Yes, I'm looking forward to Kelvin and Keith with their, queer church-going ministry now that Kelvin has come out. That's going to be great. Of course, Jesse's insecurity and inferiority complex, even though he essentially has all the power at this point as the head of the family. Great. Baby Billy, whatever new scheme he's going to concoct, sign me up. Great. But perhaps the biggest treat of all with Righteous Gemstones Season 4 is the opening premiere, which was a directorial flex from Danny McBride himself, where we actually go back to the middle of the Civil War down south, and we spend time with none other than Bradley Cooper, starring as the ancestral, original Eli Gemstone, who we actually find out was a complete interloper, a case of a stolen identity by a goon, a gambling grifter, literally. And man, the episode's absolutely remarkable because on one hand, like, way to flex the budget that HBO gave you for this series. This is a really convincing, like, Civil War episode. I think the production design, the costume design looks fantastic. But deep down, what it actually means about the origins of the Gemstone family and how the manipulation of others' faith benefited this family over a century ago. I think it was a really compelling episode, but also really just worked well as its kind of one-off nature. Of course, the first episode doesn't really give you any inclination to what the fourth season will actually be about in the present time with the characters we do know. We just kind of glean stuff from the trailers to this point. But I mean, I have really no doubt that it's going to be a satisfying conclusion just because this show really has not taken a wrong step yet, and I just don't expect that to start now. There's also only so many ways to say that I laugh out loud constantly watching this show. Like, I think, especially in the present day stuff, it's definitely a grimmer, darker, more serious first episode here with season 4 in the flashback. But the present day stuff, I mean, there's some, again, really funny stuff that's also quite creative, the stuff you don't expect. I mean, it's just really high quality comedy for a 30-minute series. Let me know though, what are you most looking forward to seeing in The Righteous Gemstones Season 4? Let me know. And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Sserafim's 5th EP, 5th mini album, Hot. 6 months since their last release, Crazy. Sserafim back, of course, one of the signature girl groups on Hybe at this point. They've been somewhat embroiled in the overall controversies at the label in the past year plus surrounding New Jeans, but not too much, not really involved with the members themselves, of course, more of a management problem. With their last release, Crazy, Le Sserafim was able to bounce back beyond the controversial Coachella performance they gave nearly a year ago, where the vocal qualities of the members were really called into question. Crazy helped, I think, get people's minds off that because it was a solid release from them. To me, their most interesting release of the last couple of releases. However, we're still pretty far removed from the great early success they had with their first two projects, Fearless and Anti-Fragile. I feel like a lot of fans, including myself, are kind of longing for Le Sserafim to get back to the sound and the music quality of their early work. But Crazy at least helped get people's mind off that a little bit, with I think some of the album cuts grabbing people, Yunche's verse from the song Crazy going viral. Some good moments for sure. And now, of course, Le Sserafim coming back with another 5-track EP, just like their last two EPs, 5 tracks. The intro track, once again, is more of a spoken word narration intro, so really only 4 songs, again kind of sticking to the mode that they've been moving in. Le Sserafim's 5th mini album Hot has some appealing moments, but still really pales in comparison to the great success of the group's early work. The biggest sin to me with most of these songs is that they're vocally pretty uninteresting. The best Le Sserafim songs have really flashy lyrics and memorable vocal moments, but this music is a lot more plain. The title track, Hot, is probably their most nondescript title track thus far. However, I did find the last track on the album, So Cynical, to be a good example of a Seraphim doing something a little bit differently. I think it's a bit more vocally interesting than the rest of the album due to the various inflections and cadences from the members, but the chorus really lets the beat do a lot of the work. Sonically, it just comes across as a bit different than a lot of their earlier work and is kind of drifting into the Jersey club side of things, a genre that Le Sserafim haven't delved in nearly as much as many of their peers. Going back to the title track, Hot, I think beat-wise it's okay, kind of like a tight snare drum tempo over or with alongside a nice bass line. It sounds fine. And the verses, like the flow of the verses are very compact. The chorus though, it doesn't burn very bright. To be honest, once again, Chaewon and Yoonjin are really carrying the chorus vocally. Nothing new there, but there's just not really any wow moments on that track, and that's usually kind of what you want from a big title track, big music video song. Come Over, kind of in a similar range once again. You have some tambourine, some keys. I think the beat's a lot better overall. Yoonjin's vocals at the beginning, I think, are really nice. But one of the fatal flaws in modern K-pop music rears its ugly head once again with this song. The super repetitive chorus. Oh my god, it's so poorly written. They come over and dance, refrain. If that wasn't all they were saying on the chorus, it actually would work pretty well because I do think it's a really dancey beat. But man, that chorus is just bad. It's just a bad hook, and you really kind of waste those pretty solid verses. Track 4, Ash, it starts softer vocally, but then when you get to the chorus, it becomes an electropop song. The bass is really bumping on that. I also thought the auto-tune in the second verse was pretty good. The pre-chorus, it's quite soft, and then you have this build-up to the bass drop in the chorus. I think I like the arranging on that song. But vocally, this song is just way too nondescript for Le Sserafim. This is way too generic for what they do. And the big flashy lyrics and vocal moments is just completely absent on a song like that. Like I don't like Le Sserafim when they do songs like Perfect Night, right? Which was a big hit, the sponsored Overwatch song that they made, 2 years ago. That is just so plain to me and feels like beneath them. Because if you think about how inventive the early work was and how much it grabbed you with just how it sounded, this type of stuff just feels so much more simple. And that's why at least I gravitate towards the last track, So Cynical, because again, like that beat is filling space in lieu of vocals in a way Le Sserafim's music hasn't really worked to this point. So, long story short, I do think this is less interesting than Crazy. There's not as good songs on this compared to Crazy. That's pretty clear. Comparing it to Easy probably makes a lot more sense. I think those 2 EPs are of similar quality, Easy and now Hot. But yeah, I mean, again, like I think we're even like a step down from Unforgiven, which to me was already a step down from Fearless and Anti-Fragile. So, Le Sserafim remains a group that I'm like pretty invested in because I just really adore like the early stuff. And they're a talented group, at least at the top. Chaewon and Yunjin. What more can you say about their vocal abilities? But this is a group that I think just needs better direction from Source Music and Hybe because they're just kind of fading into the background on a lot of their own music right now, and that's just not what your hit superstar new group is supposed to be doing. Let me know though, what did you think of Le Seraphim's fifth EP, Hot? Did you like it more than me? If so, let me know why. What was your favorite song? And for more music reviews, more K-pop reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with the review of Playboi Carti's third album, I Am Music. Technically, this album is just called Music. The album cover says I Am Music. Frankly, it's a more easy to differentiate title if you call the album I Am Music, so that's what I'm going to call it. Playboi Carti, hip hop's vampire at this point, the face of modern rap, snippet culture, and leak culture. I think that's pretty clear. Guy has a fervent fan base at this point, so much so that he's become so enigmatic, has like a legitimate cult of personality, at least with people that are 15 years old, that he's a significant figure in hip hop, whether you like his music or not. And of course, now we're over 4 years removed since his last album, Whole Lotta Red, came out at the end of 2020. The rise of Carti has been a really fascinating thing to me because I started listening to Carti Carti 1.0. He was such a different artist back in the day. I'm talking like way back, like 2015, Broke Boy, the breakout single, pre Magnolia. Like Carti's rise during, the general SoundCloud rap wave, making XXL Freshman the following year, was a pretty traditional as far as a lot of his peers were going. And then sometime after, Die Lit, the debut album in 2018, he started to just kind of change the type of music he was making as rage rap kind of came to the fore. And as a result, there was like so much like demand and hype for Whole Lotta Red before it came out. And I think Carti and his team do a pretty decent job of building up that hype. And I think what changed with I Am Music is just that 4+ years is an eternity in hip hop, especially for a young rapper. And there's just so many starts and stops, whether it was the singles that are put out just on YouTube but never even get a digital streaming release, so many teases and release dates that don't come to fruition. He very much was taking up Kanye's mantle in terms of just not delivering on what he says is going to happen with his new music. And to me, it was to the point where I just didn't pay any mind to new proclamations of the album coming out. And that's why it was so funny when I Am Music actually did come out last weekend after very little actual like concrete communication about the album date. It just kind of took me back. I mean, again, this is a guy who's canceled multiple arena concert tours at this point. He's now, as of right now, on the weekend's upcoming stadium tour as an opening act, which I guess makes some sense given the big songs they have together. But yeah, Carti's finally here with that third album after all this attention, and frankly, it's been a pretty good few years for him as far as in between albums go for a rapper. I mean, just he's been on some big records. The two weekend features, Popular from 2 years ago and Timeless from last fall was the lead single to the Weeknd's brand new album. Both monster records. Popular is a billion stream song. Timeless is over 500 at this point. He has a big feature on Travis Scott's Fiend off Utopia, which is not a song I like at all, but a lot of people love the song. It's a massive track. Big songs again, Kanye's Carnival, Future and Metro's Type Shit. He's had some moments lately. Even his Lotto feature on the Blixum remix, that was a popular, snippet in TikTok audio before officially getting re-released just a few weeks ago. Of course, the question remains after all of this, and again, significant success, at least as a guest lately, is I Am Music worthy of the hype and the anticipation and the tremendous attention? Playboi Carti's I Am Music is largely more of the same in terms of how Carti has been moving lately. Surprisingly, it has a lot less of a clear theme than his last album, Whole Lotta Red, did. At 30 tracks and 76 minutes, this really feels just like a collection of tracks. There's really not much of a through line at all, and it makes some sense considering how many different voices and cadences and flows Carti displays. The problem is there's just no consistency with his music. There are legitimately fun and cool moments at times, but those moments are drowned out by tons of songs that are very much in one ear and out the other. There are numerous high profile features on the album, including 3 from Kendrick Lamar, but to me, I think the most significant features of all are actually the Little Uzi Vert features, which stand out because of how good they are and how reminiscent of older Uzi they are, most likely because they were actually recorded some time ago. Nonetheless, there's a handful of tracks that I enjoyed, such as Evil Jordan, but overall, I think it's a pretty forgettable project. I'd really be curious like how this satisfies Carti's loyal fan, just because rage music has continued to evolve and grow and change. The last 10 years, whenever it really began, rising up out of SoundCloud rap and some weird mutation that is very much up and down subgenre, right? But you think about the success of Yeet, you think about even newer people now, like a Two Hollis, like a Net Spend, like shit's moving quick. And I'll be curious if people feel like Carti is keeping up. Also, one thing that I guess I had kind of forgotten, but Carti is in fact still signed to AWGE, aka ASAP Rocky's joint venture label with Interscope. I didn't realize Carti still was on that Rocky label. In fact, he is. And I think the fact that he doesn't release albums often at all probably is the reason he's still on the deal, because he just hasn't put out enough projects to satisfy it. As far as the actual tracks, again, there are so many, but just ones that stand out for good or bad. I mean, I would say Crush, the first song with Travis Scott. I thought the haunting chorus stood out to me, very eerie, very whole lot of red era vamp, you know, evil twin Cardi, I guess. His third track is called K-pop. I just thought that was curious because that's clearly biting the Bad Bunny song K-pop from a few years ago. A song called K-pop that's not about K-pop music. Like it felt like a played out, novelty. Like that was already done. Like you missed the boat on making that song. Call it J-pop. I don't know. Evil Jordan though was the first like real good moment to me, and it's really because of the beginning, because it has this chopped and screwed popular sample, specifically like the vocal "begging on your knees to be popular" line from the Weeknd and Cardi song "Popular." And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh shit! Is this what we're about to get into? This is super cool." And frankly, this song doesn't use the sample at all after that. The bass hits pretty hard. Like the song's still decent, but like that moment was super cool. And if there was gonna be more of that, like true, like actual, like interesting mix, I would have been more into it. And I think in general, like this album actually like sounds weirdly like a lot more commercial and a lot more like polished than Whole Lotta Red did. I thought Whole Lotta Red was like extreme peaks and valleys, and that goes down to the literal audio fidelity quality and stuff, like literally unfinished moments. I think I Am Music is more baseline, even if ultimately that baseline is pretty low quality wise. Mojo Jojo, you have Kendrick, really because of more of like an ad lib, like background sample, not like a really big feature. Philly with Travis, I thought was okay. That was a pretty good trap beat as far as the rest of the album sounded. Radar was a Metro Boomin beat. I thought the horns stood out. Pretty fun loops with those. Rather Lie featuring The Weeknd, doesn't really hold a candle to Timeless or Popular. So I think that one's going to be largely forgettable, even if it might stream well, given the Weeknd's presence of the song. Fine Shit, strangely, the voice from Cardi reminded me of like Jeremiah, which I wasn't expecting. I think in terms of like Cardi's voices these days, I think I like the voice, like the Blixum voice. I think the really like kind of like deep but like hollow, like guttural throat noise. Like it's so hard to describe his voice. He has so fucking many. Like sometimes he sounds literally exactly like Future, and you don't even realize it's him if you didn't know ahead of time. But I think to me, like that deeper one, that one stands out. That one's kind of cool, especially on certain songs on certain beats. Backdoor, more Kendrick Lamar again, more melodic. Still a short performance though. Toxic, with Skepta. I mean, Big Smoke spazzed. I mean, it was a great Skepta feature. I loved it, honestly. Charged Him Hose a Fee featuring Future and Travis. Okay. Good credits, the best Kendrick Lamar feature of the bunch because it's actual, like, real, like, Kendrick rapping verse. Although, not like an amazing Kendrick feature. Like, we're not talking, like, New Freezer or anything. But it was pretty solid. I thought the ASAP Relly line from Kendrick, incredibly timely. Shout out Rocky, of course. I appreciated that. I See You Baby Boy, perhaps the coolest beat on the album. It's very futuristic, like made me want to like jump right in like a land speeder on Tatooine. Like it felt very sci-fi to me. I enjoyed it. Wake Up Filthy with Travis, beats pretty hard. Cardi's doing a lot on it too, multiple voices. Jump in though, like this is the Uzi song, man. This one, I mean, the vocal line from Uzi is literally pink tape, pink tape, pink tape. Uh, we're two projects, we're a project beyond pink tape already. Like this is old, you know. But like it was a fun flow. Uzi super light on his feet, very like old school, like throwback Uzi, aka his most popular version of himself. So I was into it. Trim is actually featuring Future, which is funny because like when I listened to this on Friday, and this album even didn't come out till like Friday morning, right? It wasn't a midnight EST drop or anything. When I listened to it, it was without the features added yet, so you're just listening and noticing when things change. And that was the first time I was like, oh wait, that's actually Future. I can actually tell the difference between the two of them on the song, which was nice because like sometimes you're guessing. We Need All the Vibes. Also, I think a great song and a great feature. Young Thug is awesome on this song. Kind of like a tropical beat, but Thug is gliding. Ty Dolla Sign comes in, he's gliding. Love Ty harmonizing with himself on it sounds great. Honestly, it's the best Thug verse in a while, best Thug feature in a while. I would say certainly since he got out of all his legal problems. I would say Twin Trim, another Uzi track. He sounds great once again on it. Like it's a big highlight. And then from there, I think the album completely lost me. Like I really have nothing good to say about any of those other songs. It just speaks to its significantly protracted length. So yeah, Playboi Carti. I mean, I didn't really focus on much of his contributions to the album, and that's for a reason, man. He's weird like that, you know. That being said, you think about the most memorable moments of his career to this point. To me, like the platonic ideal of Cardi is like R.I.P. Undilit. That's where you get the actual energy from him versus him just yelling in the mic. I think there's a fine line, and he's largely devolved into just a less interesting artist lately. And just because he's doing weird shit doesn't mean he's doing good shit. Um, I don't see a world where he gets back to Dial It, to be honest. I think he's continuing to get more enigmatic and more strange, and you see with his live performances as well. And I'll be curious what his fan base continues to think, because most of his fan base is very young. And as hip hop continues to evolve and change, I'll be curious how they stay with him. But I mean, to his credit, you look him up on Spotify, and he's got 54.3 million monthly listeners, 36 in the world, and obviously that is significantly boosted by being on 2 songs with The Weeknd, now 3. Um, big song with Travis Scott, like that's a big factor, but still, like he's a significant artist for those reasons. But yeah, let me know, what'd you think of Playboi Carti's third album, I'm Music? Did you like it more than me? If so, let me know why. And for more music reviews, more rap reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Novocaine, the action comedy film starring Jack Quaid. Novocaine is, the latest in this new iteration of recent action comedy films. I think action films, post John Wick have kind of gone into two paths here. The ones that are very serious and very gritty, like an Atomic Blonde, like the upcoming John Wick spin-off Ballerina. And then of course you have the stuff that's a little bit lighter in the action comedy lane, like the Kingsman movies, of course Deadpool. And Novocaine I think fits more into that mold. This is really the first big star turn from Jack Quaid since he broke out as Huey on Amazon Prime's The Boys, of course. This film is directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson, filmmaking duo. I think to me the most significant thing they did was Villains in 2019 with Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe. I enjoyed that movie quite a bit. And yeah, I think overall, Novocaine is a solid action comedy film. I think Jack Quaid really quits himself well. He's a very charming screen presence, and he fits right into the tone of this movie. Ultimately, Novocaine doesn't really do too much to differentiate itself from other, films in this genre, but it's a broadly entertaining time. I enjoyed Amber Midthunder as his love interest as well. Ultimately, the script's a bit thin. I think the villains in particular are quite weak. It starts to lose you by the end, but the action comedy of it all and the central premise of Quaid's character as someone who cannot feel pain and thus is tough to take down in a fight is pretty fun. I think it's light on its feet, especially in the beginning. I think the twist in the movie lands effectively as well. Overall, I'm positive on the movie. I think the early stuff with Jack Quaid's Nathan, kind of finding a kindred spirit, someone else who has something to hide in Amber Midthunder's Sherry, I think the early stuff with them, the meet cute, them getting to know each other, I think that's done pretty well. It's a good like establishing like motivation for when Sherry gets kidnapped by these bank robbers at the bank Jack and Sherry work at. You understand why sorry, Nathan, not Jack. You understand why Nathan is so motivated to track her down, and finds out in real time, progresses about his inability to feel pain, can really kind of push him to continue to fight and push forward, even while ultimately he's not invincible or anything. He still bleeds, he can still die. It's just that he doesn't really know he's taking damage, so to speak. I think that's all pretty good. As we spend more time with the bank robbers, though, that trio, I think two of them in particular are like really poor actors, and then the one who gets the most to do is just like Diet Nicholas Holt to me. Like I kind of struggle with them as like fully fleshed out characters. Jacob Batalon, of course, from the Spider-Man Tom Holland films of fame, he's Nathan's friend from online gaming, and he's charming in his own right, even though he has very little to really do in the movie as well. I think Amber McThunder, she has more to do in this movie than she did in A24's Opus, which released the same day as Novocaine, funny enough. And I've enjoyed her. I think she's got a nice presence to her as well. Of course, breaking out with Prey, but thankfully, thankfully, the movie's twist allows her character Sherry to have more to do in the movie than I initially anticipated. So yeah, and I think like there's some suspension of disbelief in terms of the behavior of the police in this movie as well, which again we kind of let that to the side. It doesn't really bother me too much, but I mean I think the plot started to kind of become a little questionable with that sort of thing. Overall, though, again, like I think the action is solid and well shot, but not spectacular. This isn't like watching The Raid. You're not gonna be wowed really by any of the action in this movie. I think if anything, like Jack Quaid's charms and his chemistry with Amber Midthunder is probably the biggest selling point of the movie, and I guess the central concept of his character being able to feel pain and trying to fight a bunch of people. Like I think that those two elements are the best things about the movie. Overall, though, it's a solid construction, and happy I saw it. Let me know though, what'd you think of Novocaine? Did you like it more than me? If so, let me know why. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Opus, the new thriller film from A24 starring Io Adebari. Opus premiered at Sundance earlier this year and is the directorial debut from former journalist Mark Anthony Green. In addition to Io Adebari, you also have familiar faces like John Malkovich, Juliette Lewis, Marie Bartlett, Amber Midthunder, Young Mizuno, and Tatanaka Means. Pretty good cast. Opus is the latest example of the perhaps nascent new subgenre of horror film, the cult horror movie. Normal person finds themselves around a lot of people, seemingly is the only person noticing anything is wrong, and wants to get out of there alive. When you have steady direction, some engaging visuals, and really committed performances, in this case Adebari and Malkovich, it's a familiar formula that works for a reason. The problem with Opus is that once you take a step back from what you're watching, you realize it's pretty derivative material and doesn't really do anything super new with the format. I still enjoyed my time with the movie, but the comparisons to a recent film like Blink Twice really jumps out after a while. I did enjoy the premise of Opus specifically, though, in the sense that this enigmatic cultural pop icon, Moretti, played by John Malkovich, coming out of seclusion, out of anonymity, privacy, for the first time in like almost 30 years to release a new album. Cool framing for this. A series of journalists and media members are invited to a listening event in, I believe, secluded Utah, Moretti's, vast estate. And at that estate, we realize that Moretti has a convent of followers, we could say, this, nascent religion, the Levelists, who believe in creativity as this kind of driving, central life force and things of that nature. Again, a lot of this is pretty similar to the framing of Blink Twice, but if you take it a step further, this general genre of movie pertains to a lot of recent stuff, right? The Menu, Midsommar, Get Out, Don't Worry Darling, etc., right? You understand the framing at this point. I think Io does a really good job as Ariel Ecton, this new journalist who hasn't really been able to make a name for herself, working under the thumb of her editor, Marie Bartlett's character. And, from the jump, I think some of the best kind of like humor moments are with Ariel's kind of like what the fuckness to everything going on around her. I really enjoyed the setup of the movie and the premise. I just think it starts to fall away once you realize that it's kind of just basically being set up as a generic cult, so to speak, a death cult. Maybe, there's just not actually a lot under the hood with it once you spend more time. And I think the movie just kind of runs out of steam by the end, and once the reveals happen towards the end of the movie in the third act, they kind of fall a bit flat for me, just because you kind of feel like you saw them coming, just because there wasn't really much other groundwork laid. Like the mystery, the intrigue of it all kind of fizzles out, And I think comparing it to like Blink Twice last year, the twist with Blink Twice maybe similarly a bit more predictable, but certainly really wows you, surprises you, angers you, etc. Like that. It's just a flashier twist than what Opus has. Opus's twist is pretty mild. Malkovich is really committed as Moretti. It's a pretty fun performance. I think in general the concept of like the secluded listening event, it really invokes what Kanye West did in Wyoming in May 2018 regarding Ye and the other good music albums. I think that was a cool touch point for sure. I think even visually he has some cool, costumes and stuff, even if I think musically he's more of like a electronic pop artist, not a rapper or anything like that. Amber Midthunder is in the movie as one of the followers of Moretti who's there, and she doesn't really have a whole lot to do. I was a bit surprised, honestly, having seen her, how great she was in Prey, smaller roles like on Legion on FX. Like, she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this. I did notice when watching the credits that actually Amber's mother, Angelique, was actually the casting director of this movie, interestingly enough. Also in the film, as another follower of Moretti, was Tatanaka Means as Naji. Means was fucking amazing in Killers of the Flower Moon, of course, a native actor. He is great, and I was so happy to see him again. I want to see him in more stuff. I think he's awesome, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do. Young Mazzino also only actually gets one scene in the beginning as Ariel's friend. Of course, he broke out with Netflix's Beef 2 years ago. Looking forward to seeing more from him as well. We know he'll be on The Last of Us Season 2, which is really cool. I also want to shout out Amber Midthunder because she's also in the new movie Novocaine. She's actually in 2 movies getting a large release on the same exact day. When does that ever happen? Overall, Opus, Mark Anthony Green, former journalist, makes his first movie, gets that Sundance premiere, gets picked up by A24, gets flashy actors in the film. Good for him. I think he probably clearly proved that he can be a good director. I think the movie is well directed, and I just think with more, more seasoning, he was the writer of the movie as well, more work, he can probably make something a bit more interesting. But even if the movie, again, is quite derivative, I do think the setup is interesting enough. Some of the performances from Adebari and Malkovich are good, so it's not a movie without, merits, but I'm sure he'll do better work in the future. And Io, despite the movie being so-so, I do think it's a nice star turn from her. We've kind of been waiting for that on the movie side of things. She hasn't really had like a big starring movie role yet. I think the biggest thing really was a supporting role in Bottoms, which was a comedy, of course. So, Io Devery post The Bear is going to have a long runway as an actor. That much is pretty clear. Let me know, though, what did you think of A24's Opus? What did you like most about it? Did the movie come together in a better way for you than it did for me? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Steven Soderbergh's spy thriller film Black Bag, starring Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. Soderbergh, back again. And we say that a lot. Soderbergh, very active filmmaker, releasing a movie almost once a year ever since he came out of retirement, 8 years ago or so. But he's literally back again after giving us Presence not 2 months ago. Presence, high concept, horror film, horror in quotes from the POV of the ghost. I reviewed that movie. I liked it quite a bit. Soderbergh, of course, one of our most inventive and experimental filmmakers who also works a ton. His reputation needs no introduction at this point. But Black Bag, as soon as I saw the trailer and I realized what this movie was, I got really excited about it. Steven Soderbergh doing a spy thriller film with an absolutely loaded cast. I mean, sign me the hell up. Michael Fassbender's really back as well, following his brief hiatus, and this, following David Fincher's The Killer, his star turn in the spy series The Agency, the English remake of that French series. now portraying a spy in Blackback. I mean, Fassbender's back in all his glory, it feels like. Cate Blanchett, always excellent, of course. What more can you say about her? Probably her most significant role since Tar came out, of course. Best Actress nominated movie that it was. But the supporting cast in this movie is absolutely stacked as well. Of course, you have Naomi Harris, Regé-Jean Page, Tom Burke, Marisa Abela from Industry, and Pierce Brosnan. And of course, they're all playing spies, every last one of them. It's amazing. Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag is an excellent spy thriller film. This movie is sleek, it is fun, it is engaging, it keeps you on your toes and moves at a brisk pace. While the spycraft in the movie and the mystery of it all and the thriller elements are very fun, the most compelling aspect of longtime Soderbergh collaborator David Koepp's script is the marriage dynamics between Blanchett and Fassbender's characters, because they're both spies at the same agency. The movie's central conceit about trust, both in who you know and who you work with, is really effective. The MacGuffin of the movie also adds substantial stakes. The initial presentation of the movie's twist, once we really see the board for the first time, is handled very well. And then the movie really keeps you on your toes as you try and figure out who is the stranger in the house, who is the traitor in this spy agency's mix. Soderbergh plus loaded cast plus spy thriller film, unsurprisingly, it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. Could have used more time with the relationship between Catherine and George, Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender's characters, but I think they do a pretty good job of showing you that they're this like really envious power couple, two spies who are married to each other that happen to make it work in a way that other characters in the show, who also have their own relationships here and there, clearly see that it's at a different level than what they can manage. I really enjoyed that stuff. All the scenes at their home when they invite people over for dinner and whatnot, the games they play at the dinner table, really handles, I think, the character relationships really well. And it also really establishes the foundation of like the first set piece, so to speak, of the movie, where George asks Marisa Abela's character Clarissa to help him anonymously use a spy satellite to track his own wife, who he suspects is up to no good. And then once the consequences of that spying, moving that previous satellite to a new location, once that's revealed, I mean, you see it on Fassbender's face in that one scene in that situation room. The movie like really opens up. Does it end perhaps a little neatly in the sense that we just kind of assume, accept that these two great spies figured everything out, and they give us the breakdown of what happened and who was the traitor? I guess so, but I kind of believed everything about them to that point, so I think I just would have liked to spend more time in the movie. I would have liked to spend more time in Act 2, just because I think the movie's such a fun thing to be in. Of course, it's filmed in London, modern day, of course. We also spent some time in Zurich briefly. Amazing locations, but also like the costume design is incredible. All the clothes they wear look so good, and everyone in the expanded cast gets their moment. Marisa Abela very much giving you Yasmin from HBO's Industry. She is a scene stealer whenever she's on screen and portraying a key figure in the cast, namely the younger, more novice spy who has a different relationship with the others and different experience level and worldview and things like that. Naomi Harris, I feel like we haven't been using her in recent years, but she, I think, gets a lot to chew on as this psychotherapist role. She has a great one-on-one scene with Cate Blanchett in the early parts of the movie. Some great back and forth with Regé-Jean St. Page as well, who I really enjoyed seeing St. Page in this movie. His kind of debonaireness mixed with a certain, character flaw, I think works really well. I enjoyed seeing him in a spy movie as well, because he has been someone rumored, suggested as a James Bond replacement ever since he broke out with Bridgerton. Of course, fun to see him, a prospective future Bond, in the same movie as Pierce Brosnan, of course, a past James Bond. And Pierce Brosnan, in his, slightly older years now, kind of fits right in as like the head of a spy agency. Tom Burke, someone who has been like an indie film darling for a while now, really makes an impression as well as this kind of rakish yet charming spy character. Another scene I liked early on is when George goes to Clarissa's home in the middle of the night to ask her to, break protocol and help him anonymously use a spy satellite to spy. And Clarissa positions to him that perhaps he's propositioning her for sex to cheat on her boyfriend, who's Tom Burke's character, and have him cheat on her husband. And like I love like the juxtaposition all in that scene. Kind of a follow through later with the extended polygraph scene where George is questioning everyone in the mix, trying to figure out who the traitor is. I think there's just really no waste of time on this movie. It's only 90 minutes, but it feels like there's like so much in it. The movie doesn't like waste your time with any exposition. It has just the right level of spy jargon, moves at such a pace though, but like, man, there's so much packed into this cast that, even if, again, some of the spycraft plot mechanics are wrapped up a little neatly, I didn't mind because I was just having a blast the entire time. I really enjoyed the movie. As for what's next for Steven Soderbergh, we know a new movie is always right around the corner. He's actually filming his next film, The Christophers, in London as of last month, starring Ian McKellen, Michaela Cole, and curiously James Corden. So excited to see that movie next year. But yeah, man, he really did give us two bangers, two incredibly different movies in a 3 month span this year. I hope Black Bag finds more box office success than Presence. Presence wasn't a monster hit, but the movie was so darn cheap. It was like under $10 million. So, successful movie still. Black Bag, obviously, a lot more glamorous, both in terms of a more expensive cast, but also location shooting and whatnot. This movie will have to do more work, but this feels like a movie that back in the day would have been an absolute blockbuster. Now, this is what you want to see, movie star movie genre. I hope this movie finds some success. Let me know, though, what did you think of Black Bag? What was your favorite aspect of this movie? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for the pod this week. Next week, we have a full slate once again, starting with Severance Season 2, concluding on Apple. I'm sure we have a lot to get into there. On the movie front, Disney's live-action Snow White remake, The Alto Knights from Barry Levinson and Robert De Niro, Magazine Dreams, the Jonathan Majors comeback. This is the Sundance film from a few years ago that's finally coming out. A lot of controversy with that one. We'll get into it. Selena Gomez, new album in collaboration with her fiance, the producer Benny Blanco. Curious what that's going to sound like. And I'm also seeing Tommy Rickman in concert. Looking forward to talking about that show. So make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See the links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and I'll see you next week.